Don't get complacent. Don't get comfortable. We're never done. In my opinion, it doesn't matter how good you are if you're not actually solving problems that matter.
I didn't ask you to come give me 50 problems. I asked you to help me find a solution.
One of the things I realized early on is to be the person who says, we'll figure it out. The last thing you want is to make the wrong decision and have to go back and eat some humble pie.
Jesse Mishler is a corporate finance leader with 20-plus years of experience, now overseeing FP&A for a $4 billion real estate portfolio, and a former U.S. Marine who leads with discipline and integrity.
I think of FP&A as the hub of the company. Through financial expertise that will help empower the organization to achieve or even exceed its goals.
That's true no matter what industry you're in. We all like to have a healthy margin.
It's saved us so much time where we can focus on more value creation related work versus these 10 Excel workbooks all tied to each other and where's the error.
And now a brief message from our title sponsor. In finance, being accurate isn't enough. You need to be strategic. The new FP&A professional certification from CFI teaches you how to forecast with confidence, build the models that drive action, and present insights that shape decisions. Build the skills, own the strategy. Learn more at corporatefinanceinstitute.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to FP&A Tomorrow, where we delve into the world of financial planning and analysis, examining its current state and future prospects. I'm your host, Paul Barnhurst, aka the FP&A guy, and I'll be guiding you through the evolving landscape of FP&A. Each week, we're joined by thought leaders, industry experts, and practitioners who share their insights and experiences. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your journey in FP&A, this show has something for everyone. This week, I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Jesse Mishler. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, really excited to have you. I know it's been a long time coming as you welcomed a new grandson to the family, so we rescheduled things a little later, and I'm sure it's been a busy time for you.
It has. I appreciate that. I still think I'm far too young to be a grandfather, but I appreciate it, nonetheless.
Don't we all, as we get older? You suddenly realize, just the other day, my wife and I took my daughter to a therapy, and the therapist, she's old enough to, she's young enough to be our daughter. And it just kind of hits you when did we get this old?
When did this happen? My wife and I, our test has been when we tell people we're grandparents, if they don't act shocked and surprised, we're deeply hurt. We're expecting everyone to say, that's impossible.
Yeah, that's what you want, right? No, I get it. Fun world we live in. It's exciting, but yeah, it's amazing how quick it goes. All right, so a little bit about Jesse. I'm going to go ahead and read your background here. So Jesse is the Senior Vice President of FP&A at Carr Properties, where he leads the company's financial planning, long-term forecasting, executive investor reporting, and analytical activities of the company. With over 20 years of extensive corporate finance and leadership experience, Jesse has a broad background in FP&A, investor reporting across public, private, and international markets, strategic analysis, ERP system implementations, capital raising, project management, and business process optimization. Prior to joining Carr Properties, Jesse served as a consulting manager at Real Foundations and as finance director at Carr America Realty Corporation. Jesse is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps and received his master's in real estate from Georgetown University. So as I mentioned, thrilled to have you on here. Love the background. And I like to start every interview with this question. How would you describe great FP&A?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I don't think there's necessarily a one-size-fits-all answer or definition. But at a high level, I think of FP&A as the hub of the company, right? The hub that, through FP&A's financial expertise, insight and knowledge of the business, and, hopefully using effective communication, they're able to provide insights, analysis, and recommendations that will help empower the organization to achieve or even exceed its goals.
I love that, achieve or even exceed its goals. I definitely think that's an area we can help, and the hub. And then, I think one of the first people that have acknowledged right up front, look, there's a lot of different ways you can define this. It's not great FP&A can be different in one company from another. I appreciate that. But as you look back over your career, can you think of maybe an example where you've seen great FP&A in action?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question. And since I've been at my, own company or Carr Properties, it's not my company, for almost 20 years, I hesitate to give a plug for myself, but when I was thinking about this, I thought about the FP&A hub, Paul, which I think is something you're heavily involved in. And I've been trying to spend more time on there. And for me, just seeing all these people who are passionate about FP&A and who are learning from each other and wanting to grow and become better at their trade is, to me, an excellent example of great FP&A, because they're doing this on their own time and trying to become better at their job. And to me, that motivates me and gets me excited about the profession.
Thank you for sharing that. And there's definitely something to be said that, huge part of great FP&A is trying to make ourselves better, right? The best FP&A professionals invest in themselves.
Absolutely. I think, never stop learning, right?
Yeah, right. We all hear it, but when you see it in action or when you really experience it, it's amazing how much you can learn if you're open. You started your career in the Marines. I'm curious, how has that helped you and guided you as you've gone, into finance and FP&A, kind of that Marine Corps background?
Yeah, thank you. It's funny, when I was in the Marines, my parents and others asked me, how does this translate to anything outside of the Marines? If you're not going to be, throwing hand grenades the rest of your life, how will this actually help you? And I found time and time again that what I learned in the Marine Corps translates, to my everyday life over and over again. The Marine Corps, the values they have, their core values are honor, courage, and commitment. And that is something, it's not only applicable to Marines, I think it's applicable to everyday life, in work and your personal life. They're timeless principles. And, as it relates to my career, a few things, stand out for me. One, I can do hard things. It doesn't make me special, but I learned that in the Marines, that they put challenges in front of you that seem impossible. And through that, you learn you can do possible things. You can do hard things. We can all push ourselves much farther than we realize. Don't give up. It's so easy to quit, right? They don't let you quit, and they push you until you learn, hey, I can go to this next level. A place I didn't think I could. In your life, live with honor and integrity. That was drilled into us from day one. And that no task is too big or too small. The details matter. So I draw on that strength that I gained from the Marines whenever, hey, maybe it's a budget deadline, or we have a board meeting coming up, and people will say, there's no way we're going to make this. This is impossible. How do we do this? And I draw on that strength to say, we can do hard things. Don't quit. And inevitably we'll get to the other side. So it's been incredibly valuable for me.
Thank you. Well, first, thanks for your service. I appreciate anyone that serves their country. It's a great sacrifice. And then I really love how you said it's helped you realize you can do hard things. That, look, I did this in the Marines. They pushed me to my limit. Okay, board deck, only a few hours. We can figure this out. May not be perfect, but there's no reason we can't get there.
Exactly. Just not quitting in life. I think showing up and not quitting is huge for everybody.
I agree. And sometimes it also, kind of puts things in perspective, right? Military service, there are some huge things on the line when things go wrong. Okay, a meeting. Hey, it started 5 minutes late. Is it really that critical in the big scheme of things? And usually the answer is no, but sometimes it feels like it's life and death as you're working on it.
No, of course. It does in the moment, but be able to step back and, to your point, see the bigger picture is very important.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So when you and I chatted ahead of time, we talked a little bit, before recording here today. You mentioned how, in your view, finance and FP&A is really all about problem solving. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think problem solving is really where a lot of the value creation comes in, right? Because, listen, it's one thing to be able to provide a variance analysis or produce a nice chart or whatever is on your plate that day, but it's entirely another thing to actually figure things out, solve problems, provide recommendations and move the ball forward. in my opinion, it doesn't matter how good you are at Excel or put it together a PowerPoint deck. If you're not actually solving problems that matter. In my own career, it's one of the things I realized early on that has helped me tremendously is, to be the person who says, we'll figure it out, right? Because so much of what we're presented with, it's a problem that needs to be solved. And there's 1,000 reasons why it won't work and why it's not your job and it's someone else's department and you don't know how. But to be the person that says, hey, we're going to figure this out, we'll solve it, just give us some time, I think is invaluable. I don't know about in your experience, but with me, with people who report to me, when I present them with something, if I get an answer that's, hey, I'll figure it out, and if I have questions, I'll come back and talk to you, it's so refreshing, right? Versus all the reasons why they can't do it or why it can't be done.
Yeah, totally agree. That attitude of, look, we'll figure it out. And, there's always that balance. There's times when you may have too much on your plate and say, look, we got to adjust something or change something, but they have that conversation with you instead of, I can't do it because of this and this, and there's just no good answer there, and our data's terrible. It's like, okay, I didn't ask you to come give me 50 problems. I asked you to help me find a solution.
Exactly. And I'll be right there with you and I'll work with you on it and, we'll solve it together, but don't lead with no. Lead with, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you partner with the business, when you lead with no, you just, you withdraw from that emotional bank account, as I like to say. And at some point you're going to be in a negative balance if you keep saying no. So lead with, look, there's some challenges with that option. We think there are some other things we may be able to do or whatever it is, but try to lead in such a way that you're helping them realize I'm here to solve the problem, not just be the no police, as we're often called.
Exactly. And those problems, if you reframe them as opportunities, I think it changes your whole perspective and ultimately the outcome.
No, I agree. I was interviewing somebody the other day, and I think you'll appreciate this, is I mentioned, how do you hold so-and-so accountable? I think it was sales, as I asked a guy, and he goes, don't look at it as hold them accountable. I look at it as how do we help them achieve their targets and our targets. And I love the way he reframed that, because it really is, there's still an accountability element, but he's like, that's not how I view it. I view it as the shared goal of how do we achieve it. And accountability is just an outcome of achieving that. And that really struck me, because I hadn't quite thought of it quite that way.
No, that's a great way to frame it. How can I help you win?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants to win. If you tell someone, hey, I'm here to help you win, they're going to be a lot happier than, hey, I'm here to say no, because that's what we do in finance.
Right. I'm here to give you a task, ask for something, and say no.
Yeah. So you've spent a good part of your career in the real estate property industry. I'd love, what do you like about that industry? What's kept you kind of in that industry so long?
Yeah, and one thing about real estate that I really find valuable is outside of finance, just real estate specifically, is seeing an area transformed is very rewarding, right? To go to see a city block, perhaps it's a a neighborhood that's lacking in opportunities, and maybe there's high crime or whatever, and to be able to transform that one block and create space where people can live, work, and thrive, it is a very rewarding part of my job. I mean, I'm not the guy building the buildings, obviously, or even selecting the locations, but I do take pride in being part of that team that is able to, again, transform a block by block, and ultimately, hopefully, transform a city.
No, that's really cool. And I'm sure there's times you've drove by different projects and be like, I was involved in that. And you can see it come together. And there must be an aspect that's very rewarding when you're able to look at it and, okay, that made that area of the city or that town or wherever it may be better.
Absolutely. And then on more of a micro level, just the buildings themselves. We asked ourselves post-COVID, right? So everyone's used to working from home. They like being at home. They have all their amenities. How do we make our buildings a place where it's better than their home, right? If they say at home, I have all the food and drink that I want. I have all these, all the creature comforts. How can we create spaces that are as good or better than someone's home, a place they want to be, a place where, they can thrive and be the best version of themselves while at work. And so we've really worked hard, over the last few years to transform our buildings into places where people can really thrive.
No, but that's really cool. And I love that you guys have kind of taken that challenge of how do we help people want to be at work, right? Want to be in your properties.
As I said, it's not just, I think in the past, people thought of it as this box where you just go and work versus, a place that has clean air, for example. You breathe clean air. And there's been studies that makes people more productive, right? There's great fitness. There's great amenities, food and beverage, etc. A place people want to be.
Yeah. No, I've worked at some companies where it's definitely, they have some of those things that make me more want to be there than others.
No, for sure. For sure.
I do know what you're talking about. And so, you've been with Carr Properties for 20 years. I'm curious, what are some of the key operational metrics you like to look at as you're kind of assessing the health, the real estate industry? What are those key things you're looking at?
Sure. I mean, there's a number of metrics that we look at. In my role on assessing the health of the business on a consolidated basis, which is different than, say, our investments team. They're evaluating individual deals, right? But in my role, I look at things like our same store NOI or net operating income growth, as well as our FFO growth, our funds from operations. Look at that, sequentially versus budget versus our forecast. Is the business growing? Very focused on our debt metrics. What does our leverage look like? Are we appropriately levered? And then unique to commercial real estate, right? Looking at our customer, they're referred to as tenants by many companies. We prefer customer. The concentration, do we have too many, say, co-working companies or retail, IT, etc. Looking at the industry, the location. And then also, we're very focused on our margins, right? Looking at our bottom line and seeing how can we be more efficient? How can we have more of our revenue, drop to our bottom line? I mean, there's so many, I can go on and on. Our lease percentage, our occupancy percentage. But I think the ones I mentioned are the key kind of core metrics that we focus on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And not surprised to hear you say always trying to be more efficient and figure out how you can get those margins up, right? I think that's true no matter what industry you're in. We all like to have a healthy margin.
Of course. And there's always someone saying, can't this be better? Why aren't they as good as, this peer competitor or this other building? And that's always the challenge.
Yep. And I so you appreciate it and see it in a different light when it's your own business. Having, done that the last few years is looking at it going, oh, I need that number to be higher. Now I really appreciate what they were telling me.
Exactly. And I think that should be, a fun project where you can get creative and like, how do we do this? There's many ways to come at it, and there's always a solution.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity in FP&A and opportunity to develop different solutions, and that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the misconceptions, right, is that you're just crunching numbers, but so much more than that.
The idea that we're bean counters or whatever you want to call it, right? We've all heard the jokes, especially if you started in accounting and worked your way up. I did not start in accounting, but I've heard all the accounting jokes.
Oh yeah, and me too.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So we talk about solutions. One of the things in FP&A that everybody struggles with is, hey, do I build everything in Excel? Do I go to a tool? When do I go? How do I manage all this? And one thing we know is data isn't decreasing. It's only increasing every time we turn around, more complexity, more challenges. And I know at Carr, you guys decided to implement JEDOX. That's, the tool you decided to use. I just love to look at, how did you guys end up with JEDOX? How's that been? How has that kind of helped you as a company?
So we went through a very, extensive process where we tried to evaluate all the best tools that are available. We probably spent too much time evaluating, but we were a little risk averse. But after that long process, there's so many great companies out there, as and so many great tools. Mm-hmm. It makes the decision difficult, but we ended up selecting JEDOX. And, there were a few drivers behind that. One, just it's a very powerful and flexible tool with Excel-like features. Right? So we're a heavy Excel shop. And
sure.
It gave our people comfort, knowing it still sort of felt like they were in an Excel platform, but not, right? Something that's far more powerful and robust. JEDOX is a highly flexible tool for building, bespoke planning models. The learning curve was not too steep. And, to my surprise, it was able to integrate with all of our systems. So our ERP system, we use JD Edwards, our budgeting and forecasting tools. I don't know if you've ever been in the experience where a salesperson comes in and tells you, our tool X can do this, this, and this. Only to find out later, once you've purchased it, not that they were lying, but it wasn't as simple, perhaps, as they presented it. And the reality is something very different.
Yeah.
And I have to say, with JEDOX, we presented all the different tools that we use, and some are very unique to real estate. And I was somewhat suspicious that it would actually work, that they would integrate successfully. And they did. It was seamless. We were very impressed with that. And every tool that we use can now integrate with JEDOX. So it makes our planning that much more accurate, efficient. We can trust the data. And we're not spending the time that we were previously.
Yeah. And that's one of the time is a big one, right?
Absolutely. It's saved us so much time where we can focus on more, value creation related work versus these 10 Excel workbooks all tie to each other and where's the error. And yeah. So, but again, going back to that kind of Excel look and feel that has made it easy for us to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
Their customer service has been excellent. We call them probably way too much. What about this? And they've been so great about working with us to come up with different ideas and solutions to any problem we've presented. So, I can't say enough good things about it. They continue to evolve as well. They're introducing, an AI component that, we frankly don't fully understand yet, but we're in the early stages of trying to digest that and see how we can use that at Carr. But yeah, it's been an amazing, tool for us and has helped take us to the next level.
That's great. And I'm glad it's worked out. And that's really what you want. It sounds like you really did your homework. As you said, may have spent too much time in the evaluation phase, but I'd rather spend too much than too little and fail in implementation, right? Because that's a lot more painful to fail that implementation than to be a month or two late.
Oh, exactly. Especially when your CFO or perhaps your board is skeptical about spending those dollars, right? Do we really need to spend this? Do we really need this tool? And you sell them on the fact that you do. And the last thing you want is to make the wrong decision and have to go back and eat some humble pie and say either we're not using it or we need a different tool now. And that's thankfully not been the case.
Yeah, when you invest a bunch of money, whenever you have to go back and say we didn't get an ROI, that's never a fun position to be in. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to shift gears. When we chatted, one of the things you mentioned that you love doing is developing people. That's something you've really enjoyed in your job. What is it that you enjoy about developing those you work with? Why has that been something that's been such a key part of your career?
Listen, I enjoy FP&A. I enjoy, have enjoyed building models and all the things that go into that part of what we do. But I found over time that really the most rewarding part of my job has been seeing someone come in, learn, grow, move from, how do I say it, following orders, right? You have a new employee come in
Sure.
to do it. They, to go back to my Marine Corps days, they salute and say, yes, sir, and do it, right? And to see the progression from someone going from that space to, seeing them grasp the concept, but then coming back to me and saying, well, you told me X, Y, Z, why aren't we doing A, B, C? And here's an idea I have, and we can make this better. And to watch that process unfold to me is just, I don't know, it's very, very rewarding. I think part of it might be in my DNA. So my dad was a professor at a University of Minnesota. And I think maybe I inherited that from him, of that satisfaction of seeing the light bulb moment when someone grasps a concept and builds on it. I was saying to someone recently, I'm at the stage in my career now where people are getting younger and younger. I'm getting older and I'm teaching them, but they're also teaching me. And that to me is just, so rewarding.
And now a brief message from our sponsor. You know the numbers. Now it's time to own the story. The new FP&A professional certification from CFI is built for finance professionals who want to lead with insight, not just report the data. With FPAP, you'll learn how to build real-world forecast models, analyze performance with precision, and design dashboards that drive strategic conversations. You'll sharpen your Excel skills, unlock the power of tools like Power BI and Power Query, and master the workflows top FP&A teams use every day. Whether you're supporting growth, evaluating projects, or presenting to the CFO, FPAP gives you the practical skills and strategic edge to step into bigger roles. Ready to lead where it counts, build the skills, own the strategy. Learn more at CFI. Go to www.corporatefinanceinstitute.com. Love that. I think one thing you mentioned there is those light bulb moments. Not much beats that. Those are some of the best moments in life when you just see somebody get something or accomplish something. It could work or personal. There's just something rewarding when you help people achieve.
Absolutely. No, well said. I mean, it's like a proud parent, right? And and to see them, get passionate about it and want to do it better and come up with new ideas it's energizing for everyone, I think.
Yeah, well, it's much easier to manage than the people that aren't performing, that aren't doing things, and that you're struggling to figure out how to motivate them versus people you can help guide and that want to be successful. Makes their jobs a lot easier.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So, you mentioned a lot of people you have worked with have gone on to have very successful careers. Why do you think that is? Is there, something maybe specific you've done over your career, or why that's happened?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It is not one thing. I guess if I try to simplify it, I hope that I encourage people to learn and to grow and push them to be their best, right? In other words, I tell people, don't get complacent, don't get comfortable. You are never arriving. We're never done. So, keep pushing yourself, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep growing. And, I think that's been part of the success of people that have worked for me in the past is I don't let them stop, and you get to that point where it'd be in my best interest to keep all those people working for me because they're all the high performers. But I think one thing I've figured out is don't be afraid to let them go. I tell them, my hope for you is you take my job or you go out, if we're a relatively flat organization. If you can't kick me out yet, then you go find another place where you can keep growing and keep bettering yourself. I think that's been part of the success I've had in managing people.
Yeah, I agree. People want to feel like you're there to help them achieve where they want to go. I've worked for and been in situations where the manager like, well, no, I can't let you go. You're too good. You can't go over here. You can't do that. And it feels like, so basically it's about you. That's right. How it kind of feels. And I know sort of they may be trying to do what's best for the organization, and there's times you can understand it, at least in the short term. But when there's that long term of, we just don't want you to move, it's like, okay, is it about, your needs and just getting today's needs met, or is it really about what's best for everybody? Because in the long run, developing people is always best, even though you lose some great people.
Yeah, 100%. Because right, it's not fair to them, to try to just keep them, helping make your life better, right? I think it's our job to, just like, again, back to your comment about being a parent. It's our job to help them be the best version of themselves they can be and, release them and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, release and then pray that they do all right.
Exactly.
Any advice you'd offer to kind of first-time managers who are trying to figure out how to manage people? Because I think that's one of the hardest transitions we do in our career. You're all of a sudden this individual contributor. You get promoted because you did a great job on your own. And it's like, oh, here's your reward. Figure out something completely different.
That's so true. No, you're right. It's really hard to transition from being a high-performing doer, right? To be a manager. And not everyone is meant to be a manager or a leader of people, right? That's one of the challenges I've seen in my career is this person's a great performer, let's promote them to the manager. And either A, it's not what they want, or two, they're not very good at it, which that's okay. Everyone has their strengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
But advice I've given to people who are new in a leadership position is, I think, first and foremost, to stay humble, right? Don't let it go to your head. And that sometimes, humility, I think, can be confused with, being meek or not being a strong leader. And I believe strongly that you can be humble and strong at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive.
The best leaders are humble, I believe. There are exceptions, maybe, but I think on the whole, your best leaders are humble.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I tell them, stay humble, try to listen more than you speak, set clear goals for your teams, make sure they understand your direction, and building trust, I think, is key, right? For people to really go above and beyond, they have to trust you. They have to trust that, you know what you're talking about, that you have their best interest.
And so what are some of the things you can do to earn their trust? Because you talk about how that's really a key, right? Great leaders need to earn the trust of their team. So how do you earn their trust? What are the things you've done that have helped you earn the trust of those who work for you?
Yeah, a few things come to mind, right? I think first, they just need to know you're competent, right? That you know what you're talking. I think we've all been in positions where maybe there's someone in a, senior role to us, and we're not quite sure they know what's going on.
You wonder who they know or how they got there. Yeah,
exactly. So I think first they have to know. Okay, you have an understanding of the situation at least. Yeah, you know what you're talking about. And then I think beyond that, right? They have to know that you care. You care about them. And when I say care, I don't just mean care how productive they are. Obviously, productivity is important. But beyond that you care about them as human beings, that you see them for who they are, and they're unique individuals that also have lives, outside of the office. And while there's, lines there that get blurry, you want to understand that, hey, I know you're a person and you have personal challenges, and we're here to work, but there's also, your life outside of work, and that you care about them and their growth professionally and personally. So I think, competency, caring, and just kind of, being authentic. They can see you in action. One thing that really impressed me at my company early on is we were getting ready for a board meeting, and we were just running behind, and there was a lot to get done. And something as simple as just putting the materials together. I saw my boss, our CFO, come out and start punching holes in paper and making binders. And to me, that I developed even more trust and appreciation for him at that time. Like, he doesn't have to do this. He could just yell at us, why aren't we done? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead he came out and said, all right, what are we doing? We got binders to make. Let's all roll up our sleeves and make binders together. And that was years ago, and I still remember it, right? So that kind of behavior of being authentic and demonstrating we're all in this together, even though I'm at this level, speaks volumes.
We all have a huge appreciation when we see that senior leader that will get their hands dirty with the rest of us when needed. Like, if they're a crisis, they're just not up there from the front telling everybody to go work and then, sitting back and relaxing. They're the first one with the shovel or whatever it may be. They're at the front saying, let me demonstrate how we get through this together.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can't say it as artfully as many have before me, but, people aren't always just following your words, right? It's your actions. Authenticity repeated over and over again. People see it, and you can't fake that.
People notice what you're doing, even when you don't think they are. They notice.
No, 100%.
And if you don't believe that, just wait till you have kids, right?
That's so true. That's so true. They're watching all the time.
Yeah, they definitely are, and listening, but that's another story.
That's
all right. So last question I'm going to ask before we kind of move into our standard sections where we have a few questions we go through. As you look back over your career, is there maybe one specific experience you could share of watching someone to develop that went on to great success, or maybe a story, maybe they struggled at first or whatever, but is there something that comes to mind that maybe you could share with us from as you look back over your career?
Yeah, there's not one particular story I think that stands out, and I don't want to necessarily name any names, but
sure. Yeah, no, go ahead. Name all the names. This person was really bad at first, and then no, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Don't hire this person. Here's their name. Okay. After. No, but it is one of kind of the through lines through my career that I've been, most proud of. I've had people who started with me as, junior analysts and associates that, are running their own companies today or serving as principals in very highly successful companies. And, we stay in touch. And it's very rewarding for me to think that I had some small part to play in their success. Our HR director pulled me aside not too long ago and asked me, Jesse, make sure you're still happy here and engaged. And, does it bother you at all that there's some people that have worked for you that are now, running their own company somewhere? And couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm elated. I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm happy to see their success. And why wouldn't I be, right? I think that's, if I can look back on my career and think of, did I have a successful career? It'd be seeing, how many people who I had the opportunity, privilege to lead went on to have amazing, successful careers. And that's what I can hope for.
Well, I say, as I've listened to you talk about it, I can see why they've been successful. It's clear to me you put your team first and you focus on helping them achieve things. And that's a sign of a great leader. So I'm not surprised to hear you say you've seen a lot of people be successful and you take great satisfaction in that versus the type that, oh, why are they being better than me?
Right. I mean, it's human nature. It's easy to do, right? But it's to step back and look at the big picture, and it's rewarding.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And I think people can learn a lot there from what you've shared around leadership and just developing people. All right. So this is our FP&A section. These are some questions we ask everybody. Okay. So first one, what is the number one technical skill that FP&A professionals should master?
Number one technical skill. Even with all of the new tools out there, with AI, with everything, if a person starting their career today were to ask me that question, I would say, master Excel. And I know forever we try to get away from it. I've been in so many, seminars and read literature and listened to podcasts where people say, you got to get away from Excel. I don't know that we're ever going to completely get away from it. And I think being able to build a strong financial model in Excel is key to someone's success. I mean, there's obviously so much more that one can learn.
Sure.
But to me, that's the foundation.
Yeah, and you and a lot. Excel and financial modeling are number one and number two, most often answers. So I'm not surprised to hear you mention both of them. What about soft skill?
Soft skill, I think, it's communication, right? I think communication, both, verbal and nonverbal. No matter how good you are at building that model and working in Excel, if that doesn't translate to providing your board of directors, your investors, whoever your audience is, with actionable, material that they can digest and understand, it's of little value, right? So to me, it's communication. That's a tough one. I don't know. Let's see. There's one feature, because my answer was going to be if they took Excel away, I would panic. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we all panic if the tool went away for sure.
Yeah. This is going to be maybe not the most impressive answer, because as I've evolved in my career, I personally am in Excel less and less.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reviewing models, but again, I'm even embarrassed to say it because I don't think it's that high speed of a tool or a function. But I like the X lookup feature. I use it a lot. It's flexible. It's easy to use. Most of the models are things that I've built recently. Those are few and far between. I found myself using the X lookup for its flexibility. And
yeah,
I know that's not the most high speed answer, but
it's good. I'm a big fan of that function, and everybody has a different answer. We get some all kinds. That's the fun of it, is I never know how somebody's going to answer on that question. That's what I like about these. All right. What is the biggest misconception you think people have about FP&A?
I think there are many. A few that come to mind would be that it's a back office function, right? You're just back there crunching numbers and not contributing, to revenue creation, to adding value to the company. That you're either just crunching numbers, finding ways to cut costs, or preparing budgets. Maybe that's that would be the highlight people might think is, well, the only time they look forward is when it's budget time. Otherwise, they're just looking back and, again, crunching numbers and trying to take things away from me.
Yes, take things away. That's definitely one that unfortunately we have a reputation of doing, and unfortunately have had to do a few times. But that's definitely not the job.
No, not at all. I think one more that comes to mind is that it's boring. Oh, what does Jesse do? Oh, he's the Excel, quasi accountant numbers guy. I don't really know. I mean, so funny story. When my kids were younger, they had, bring your parent to work day or school day rather, and we have in our community, we have neighbors that are FBI agents and, various interesting professions. And
sure,
I asked my daughters if they wanted me to attend that event at their school. In no uncertain terms, they said, no, wait, but what do you do? Like, you just work in Excel or something? And like, no, thanks, So I think even in my own family, there's misconceptions about the nature of the job.
Yeah, no, I'm sure if I asked my daughter what I did, I'm not sure what the answer would be. Although I don't do as much of the working in Excel and FP&A today. It's a lot more of the talking about it. So it is definitely a little different, but
she would invite you to her school event, I'm sure.
We'll find out hopefully one day.
Yeah.
I might get no, Dad, all you do is talk. That's boring stuff. All right, so now we have a section. We're just going to take a couple minutes to get to know you a little bit more, kind of on a personal level. What's a favorite hobby or passion? What do you like to do in your spare time?
It's kind of a nerdy, weird answer, but I like to run. I like to jog, just to get out and be by myself and run.
The reason I was late was I was finishing up a run this morning.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully it was, cleared your head. It does for me. So I like to do, running events that push my limits. And I use the term run/jog because I'm not fast. But I'm training for another marathon right now. I like those endurance testing events. I've done some Tough Mudders, things where, harkening back to what I was saying about the Marines, can I do this? Pushing myself to my limits. And also when I'm running is when I do my best thinking. I mean, I come back from runs and have ideas about work, how can I change what I said in this meeting or, personal matters. It's when I do my most sort of meditative, thinking.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I can relate. I've run some marathons and I haven't done a Tough Mudder, but I've, got the opportunity to challenge myself, and it's a great way to do it.
Oh, you're too smart to do a Tough Mudder there. My wife's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing it? Find something else. Like, why are you crawling under barbed wire and through fire? There's better ways to prove yourself.
What one person loves, another person thinks they're crazy. So there's something out there for all of us. The beauty of this world.
Exactly.
All right. If you could have any superpower, what would you have? What would you pick?
That is probably your most difficult question to answer because it's thinking about all the superpowers out there. I think maybe the ability to heal people. I would say from either physical or mental illness. Me personally, without going too deep, I've had far too many, friends, family members that have passed away, in my opinion, far too early from battling various diseases. I've had people that I know, care about, that have been really, destroyed by mental illness. So I think, the ability to bring healing to someone's life, be that physical or mental, would be an incredible superpower to have.
Kind of that one touched me, having lost family members to mental health issues, and seeing the pain of where they just feel hopeless, and you want to be able to help them. So that would be amazing to be able to do that. And there are ways we can help. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not enough. We'd love to be able to just take that burden.
100%. I've had the same, similar situations in my family, and it is a helpless feeling, and we can only do what we can do.
Yep, during, after all of it, it's tough to watch. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy, let alone someone close to you.
That's what I would do.
I thank you for that answer. I really, like I said, that one touched me deeply because I can relate a lot to what you were saying there on a very personal level. All right. So we got one more kind of question, learn a little bit more about you, then we'll wrap up here. So we just got about 2-3 minutes left.
All right.
So if you could have any job in the world for 1 week, it could be a specific job or a person's job, up to you. What job would you have? What are you picking?
So I'm not saying this to win points with my wife, but I would pick her job. She is this kind of ties into my previous answer. She's a mental health therapist. She's a counselor.
Ah, okay.
She focuses primarily on people with trauma. And, well, I think my job is important and I enjoy it. Sometimes I will compare and contrast. I'll talk about my day and she'll talk about hers. And I think, God, I see firsthand how she is really helping people, recover their sense of well-being, find hope, heal marriages, heal relationships. And I think it's got to be such amazing, rewarding work. Challenging, but I told us, you never put your head on the pillow at the end of the day and think, what did I do today to make the world better? How did I contribute? You just know that you did. And so I would probably try her profession.
Great answer. I'm sure she'll appreciate that one.
I hope
if she listens this long, right?
Exactly. If she listens at all, yeah.
All right. So last question before we let you go here. If you could offer any advice to our audience to be a better business partner today, better FP&A business partner, what would be that kind of parting advice you'd give them?
I think the most important thing would be to be curious, to ask questions. Get out from behind your desk, get to know the other business units in your company, learn about their challenges. That was something it took me a long time to learn in my career. I was glued to my desk because there's always too much work and not enough time. And someone pulled me aside once and said, it was embarrassing. They said, do you know that person's name over there? And I couldn't answer the question. So I was just so in my own finance bubble. And so being curious, trying to understand what other business units are doing, what other people are doing, will help, I believe, one, become a better business partner. Because you learn about what's going on in operations, what's going on in HR. And sometimes I found how much value we can add with something that takes less than 5 minutes of our time, right? I was asking our HR, leader about a challenge she was facing. And she said, this file I have where I have to put in this payroll information and all these mistakes. And I looked at it and everything was hard-coded and just doing a very simple, adding a few formulas. It took me 2 minutes. But for her, it was like I had done the most amazing thing, right? How did you know how to do that? It's incredible. You saved me hours of time. So just by asking questions, being curious, I think can really help become a better business partner.
Great. That is, I would 100% agree. Be curious is how you learn the business. All right. So we'll go ahead and put your contact information in the show notes, your LinkedIn profile. So if anyone wants to reach out. And I just want to close by saying thank you. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I think it was a great conversation, and I can tell you really care about your staff, and I think there's something that everybody can learn from this interview. So thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate the time.
No, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you having me on the show. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening to FP&A Tomorrow. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review on your podcast platform of choice. This allows us to continue to bring you great guests from around the globe. As a reminder, you can earn CPE credit by going to earmarkcpe.com, downloading the app, taking a short quiz, and getting your CPE certificate. To earn continuing education credits for the FPAC certification, take the quiz on Earmark and contact me, the show host, for further details.